Murray, just to name a few.
Right.
There's always people here you don't anticipate.
I was going to say, kind of an eclectic bunch. Nice. At 2 p.m. Eastern, Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for round two, another 2.5 hours of shareholder Q&A. At that point, we'll be back with you for a quick recap of the
Murray,
day's
just to name a
headlines.
few.
And rejoin Buffett
There's always people here you
for the
don't anticipate.
official
I was going to say,
Berkshire
kind of an
Hathaway
eclectic
meeting.
bunch.
That's
Nice.
scheduled for 4:45
At 2 p.m. Eastern,
p.m.
Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for
It is going to be a big day here.
round
and,
two,
let's start right
another
now
2.5
by running through
hours
the
of
Berkshire
shareholder
Hathaway
Q&A.
earnings that were
At
just
that
posted
point,
about
we'll
an
be
hour
back with
ago.
you for
The
a
numbers
quick
came out. Net
recap of the
earnings
day's
down
headlines.
15%
Rejoin
to
Buffett
There's always people here you don't
$5.4
anticipate. I was going to say,
billion.
kind of an
To look
eclectic
at
bunch.
operating
Nice.
earnings.
At
Those
2
numbers
p.m.
were
Eastern,
actually
Buffett
flat
and Munger
compared to
will be
last
back
year, and
on
that's
stage for
happening. It is
another
going to be a big day here.
round
and
two,
let's start right
another
now.
2.5
Running through
hours of
Berkshire
shareholder
Hathaway
Q&A.
earnings that
At
were
that
just posted
point,
about
we'll
an
be back
hour
with
ago.
you for
The
a
numbers
quick
came out.
recap
Net
of the
earnings
day's
down
headlines.
15%
Rejoin
to
Buffett.
$5.4 billion.
I was going to say, kind of an
To look
eclectic
at
bunch. Nice.
operating
At 2 p.m. Eastern, Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for
It is going to be a big day here.
round two, another 2.5 hours of shareholder Q&A.
We've been going
At
through
that
the
point,
numbers
we'll be back with you for a quick recap of the day's headlines. Rejoin Buffett. There's always people here you don't anticipate. I was going to say, kind of an eclectic bunch. Nice. At 2 p.m. Eastern, Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for
It is going to be a big day.
round two, another 2.5 hours of shareholder Q&A. At that point, we'll be back with you for a quick recap of the day's headlines. Rejoin Buffett. There's always people here you don't anticipate. I was going to say, kind of an eclectic bunch. Nice. At 2 p.m. Eastern, Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for
It is going to be a big day.
round two, another 2.5 hours of shareholder Q&A. At that point, we'll be back with you for a quick recap of the day's headlines. Rejoin Buffett. There's always people here you don't anticipate. I was going to say, kind of an eclectic bunch. Nice. At 2 p.m. Eastern, Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for
It is going to be a big day.
round two, another 2.5
Oh my gosh.
hours of shareholder Q&A. At that point, we'll be back with you for a quick recap of the day's headlines. Rejoin Buffett. There's always people here you don't anticipate. I was going to say, kind of an eclectic bunch. Nice. At 2 p.m. Eastern, Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for
It is going to be a big day.
round two, another 2.5
Oh my gosh.
hours of shareholder Q&A. At that point, we'll be back with you for a quick recap of the day's headlines. Rejoin Buffett. There's always people here you don't anticipate. I was going to say, kind of an eclectic bunch. Nice. At 2 p.m. Eastern, Buffett and Munger will be back on stage for
It is going to be a big day.
round two, another 2.5
Oh my gosh. Oh.
hours of shareholder Q&A.
Maybe you should stop recording.
Let me stop this.
Way.
Forest River.
Forest River, right. They do RVs, they do the boats and a lot of things that are coming through. And this was Buffett taking a look at the boat yesterday on the floor. He's pretty excited about it.
I took a look myself.
Yeah.
It kind of looks kind of fun. Yeah.
It is, yeah. A key concern, we'll talk to Jimmy Buffett in just a little bit. A key concern among the shareholders here, though, is inflation. Okay, oh, there's Jimmy. I thought we lost Jimmy. Jimmy,
Come in on
thank you
inflation.
for
That's a
joining
good
us today.
info.
I know.
Hi, how you doing, Becky?
I know you wanted to be here today.
Yes, I am very disappointed I couldn't come, but the weather was there, and I have a show tonight. I'm in Virginia Beach now, but I've got a show to loyal fans of mine that have waited 3 years because of the pandemic and did not want refunds. So getting back was the problem from Omaha. So thank you for letting me come on here. But I talked to Warren and Susie yesterday, but it just wasn't possible for me to get out there and get back to the show.
Well, we are thrilled to have you here. And I know Warren himself is pretty excited about the boat that you designed, the pontoon boat. I want to talk a little bit about you, because you're an entertainer and people know you as having this laid back lifestyle. They live that lifestyle, the Parrot Heads. And you also are somebody who has a huge brand. I mean, Margaritaville, the idea that went from a song to this huge industry where you have lots of things going on. 28 restaurants, 26 resorts, cruises, 355 and older communities of people who actually want to live in Margaritaville. I just wonder, how did you get from where you were in Key West as a singer and entertainer to where you are as a huge capitalist?
Well, I would say it started with the fact that my introduction to Warren came on a family geological search by Doris Buffett at the time, who met my mother and said, we went on a trip to the South Pacific where there are Buffetts out there, and we decided to find out whether we were related. Then this is way before they had tests. And she said, you ought to meet Warren and you ought to buy some Berkshire. And that started it. And I looked at it, and and reading everything Warren said, it's pretty simple to me. As he said, goods and services and management in place. And I kind of took those things. The entertainment business hasn't been known for people to actually look at the business side of it for a long time. That was all taken care of by managers and agents and stuff. But I also was a reporter for Billboard magazine in my earlier years when nothing was happening. And I learned from my editor, Bill Williams, that what the music business and how that was stacked up, it was pretty much against the artists of having any kind of investment in the companies themselves. So as a reporter then and knowing Warren, I just wanted to take care of my interests as I went forward. And it started with buying my own piano to take on the road as opposed to letting the promoter charge you 2 or 3 times the price of a piano that he would get. So that started piano.
Wow. Jimmy, first of all, what year did you buy Berkshire shares? How long ago?
Let's probably, I don't know, let's say 25 years ago.
Wow. Have you held on to them this entire time?
Never sold anything.
So you are a Buffett. You must be related to Warren.
Somewhere, well, we think somewhere in a French village, probably across the sea in the old days. But we did the test, but it didn't show out anything. But who knows? Everybody has negative and positive COVID tests.
Right. Maybe it was a false negative.
Yeah.
How about Margaritaville? This is a song that you wrote. I've read. Correct me if this is wrong. In about 6.5 minutes, you wrote it partially in a bar after having a few margaritas, and partially being stuck on the bridge over to the Keys. Is that true? And now it's this huge brand.
Yeah, that was absolutely the way it happened, Becky. And and I went back and I played it in a bar. I was actually at that point I was singing in bars on Duval Street, and it was a place called Crazy Ophelia's, I remember, and I played it on stage right after I wrote it. And normally you had to play songs that people were familiar with, and so I said, well, let's just try it out, and they seemed to like it. So you never know what's going to happen when you write a song or what's going to happen when you get on a stage. So I haven't had that many big hits on radio, but I was always a road performer. And so it got into the set list, and on its own, it became a favorite of fans way before there was any internet or anything like this, when loyal fans just came to shows, and we built it out of being good performers, I think.
I mean, amazing that the song took off and has such a following, but did you ever anticipate that it would turn into a brand where it's restaurants, where it's cruises, where it's communities where people want to live, name Margaritaville? Did you have any anticipation, or what point did you kind of think maybe this can happen?
Absolutely not. What happened was, the real story was that living in Key West at the time, I was looking. There was an array of T-shirt shops up and down Duval Street, along with everything else. And I saw a guy come out of a T-shirt shop with a Jimmy Buffett T-shirt, but it was spelled with one T. And I went in and was just kind of checking with the guy, and he didn't know who I was or anything, but some people were buying them. So I had a friend then who worked in another store, and I'd asked her. She had been a friend of my wife's in South Carolina, but she had moved to Key West. And I said, why don't we open a little shop? I mean, at least we know how to spell my name right. So we opened the Margaritaville store in Key West down on the waterfront, and started as a store. And in the first year, I think we were 400 square feet, but we were doing the same amount per square foot as I think Bergdorf was doing. And that's when we first got on the radar.
So what next? I mean, you guys have more plans. I know you've got a cruise that you're developing too. What comes after that?
Becky, it comes as what people, like I said, it goes back to Warren's goods and services kind of thing. Of course, we got into the other side of, we're also looking into the virtual world now, because people are living in the virtual world, and they're also living in active living communities. So always looking at what was out there and what Margaritaville, it started as, as a song, and it basically was a virtual place in the beginning before there was virtual places. People just wanted to listen to the song. It made them feel better about things. So we just kind of followed where that went, and I also wanted to be in charge of whatever business opportunities I had, which was also, again, it goes back to being based on Warren being an advisor from the first time that I met him.
Well, Jimmy, we want to thank you an awful lot for being here today. We want to thank you an awful lot for being here today, and wish you were in person with us, but we know you are in spirit. We know we're excited about the boat, which is a model. I know they're selling 25 of those. It's just a model at this point, but there are big plans for it and a lot of excitement here about it too. But thanks for joining us today, and good luck with your concert tonight.
Okay, thanks, Becky, and thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. I wish I was there, but next year.
Next year. We'll see you here then.
Okay.
All right, folks, a key concern among the shareholders here is inflation, of course, the cost of just about everything going up and up. And Berkshire Hathaway has over 60 subsidiaries, everything from companies like Fruit of the Loom to Geico to Precision Castparts. Each has its own CEO or manager, as they're called here. We had the chance to speak to some of them yesterday about the state of the consumer and what's happening in inflation.
Inflation impacting our business a little bit, and we can see a little slowdown in written business, but it's coming off such huge numbers from the pandemic, and our space was really lucky in that people were spending time at home. They needed new electronics. They were refurnishing their homes, and it's been unbelievable, and it's still at a high level. But you can definitely see a slowdown.
We don't have unlimited pricing power, but we have taken selective price increases where we think we can. But our whole industry is so competitive; it's a big marketplace. But we've done that where we can. But we don't have unlimited pricing power. So I do believe in supply chain that costs are going to mediate a bit.
Inflation and the supply chain challenges, two key factors weighing on the markets. And yesterday we ended April with a serious sell-off. The NASDAQ tumbling more than 4%, actually finishing the month down more than 13%. And as we mentioned earlier, it's the worst monthly performance for the tech-heavy index since the financial crisis back in 2008. Yesterday alone, Amazon dropped by 14%. That is its biggest one-day drop since 2006. In April, it lost more than 23% of its value. Joining us right now is noted tech investor Ann Winblad. She's managing director of Hummer Winblad Venture Partners. And Ann, it's really great to see you here today.
Great to see you both as well.
Well, let's start jumping right in on what's happening with technology, because there are some people who are starting to panic at this point.
Yeah, I mean, technology is a big word. It covers a lot of companies. We saw that from earnings, that we're covering multiple segments here, multiple customer sets. As a venture capitalist, we always look at the glasses half full versus half empty. But there were some full glasses. Cloud computing was a highlight for Google and Amazon, and especially Microsoft. That's a huge growth market for all three of those companies. And we've noted that the enterprise, according to Microsoft, in their earnings itself, they mentioned that IT enterprise spend is accelerating, not decelerating. And that is because these projects are hugely transformational for all large enterprises.
And given where we are, I mean, a lot of people just want to find a good business and own it and hold it for a long time. Obviously, Warren Buffett's preached that, but he's also preached the price sensitivity side of it, right? You have to know what you're willing to pay for it. It seems like last year, near the peak, especially software businesses, people said, this is an amazing business if they get to scale. And therefore, valuations went, they overshot probably, right? So where are we now in that kind of rationalization process on the downslope?
Well, clearly they did overshoot. We're probably never going to see a repeat of Q4 of 2021 for the tech sector. And as we all know, people tend to overreach when they're excited and underreach when they're disappointed. I think the tech sector is pretty well balanced right now. Microsoft never reached the higher multiples of some of the other high multiple stocks. And if you look at some of the other enterprise software companies, Atlassian team, recent company that was going to be acquired by Zoom, where shareholders turned down that deal at a very high price Five9, that stock was way up this week as well. These are all direct selling to the enterprise. And those are very well valued companies, not overvalued, probably, not undervalued, but fairly valued.
Hey, and Tim Cook is here from Apple.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a huge holding, by far the biggest holding for Berkshire Hathaway. Their stock dropped this week on concerns about the supply chain, and that really catching up. We thought that there were some companies that were going to be immune, companies like a Tesla or Apple. They're indicating that that's not the case, that they're going to get caught in the supply chain crunch just like everybody else. How big of a concern is it now that you are continuing to see these rolling lockdowns in China where so many of these companies have their supply lines?
Well, in the software sector, one important thing to note is that there is not a supply side issue.
Sure.
There is also pricing power if you're selling directly to the enterprise. So some of the headwinds are gone from those companies. But clearly, China is an unknown for all these companies. We are in a global economy. Products do need chips. We want to sell to the Chinese users. So it is a major headwind. And I think Tim and his team was fair to state a wide range of dollars that the supply chain could affect that stock. And of course, with that kind of range, that's pretty terrifying to investors.
As somebody who's been, investing in the markets for so long and have been coming here, why do you come back? What do you hope to hear or be reminded of?
I always like to learn. I'm in the business of change. I'm in the business of trying to build some assumptions about what comes next because we fund early stage enterprise software companies. And this is the largest classroom ever with Warren and Charlie. Charlie has a long-term view, as does Warren. And that's really important for most investors, especially venture investors. The typical company we fund in the enterprise space, we initially funded Five9 when they were a startup. It was 10 years later when they went public. So it's a long haul with even in the private markets. And there are many, many companies right now that are hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue that are still years away from an IPO. That long view is also something that I take with enterprise software stocks as well. And it's reassuring, unless Warren changes his tune this year, to really think about the long view, how we deal with headwinds. Should we panic about quarterly results? Or should we just look at good companies with great managers?
It's been a bit of a soap opera watching Twitter and what's taken place with Elon Musk launching this bid to buy the company. What's your take on it?
Well, as one of my colleagues said, don't underestimate Elon Musk. He's built two extraordinary companies, Tesla and SpaceX. And so let's think positive here, that maybe he has some extraordinary plan for Twitter that puts it in a great set of companies. It makes for great fodder for the press to get quips from Elon. He's very self-assured in the press. So who knows where Twitter will go, but let's hope that an extraordinary company is built.
If you were a Tesla shareholder, would you be concerned that his attentions are elsewhere at this point?
Well, he has already shown that he can strategize across multiple spinning plates and big plates. And frankly, Twitter does need a refresh. We have massive changes in consumer advertising. It is a global platform. As we know from Facebook and Twitter, there's still a lot to be done in global media platforms that operate in real time.
For sure.
And want to thank you very much for being here today. Always great seeing you. We're going to let you go because it's starting inside in just a little bit. Make sure you get your seat.
We're going to let you go too, I think.
I'm going to run away.
Yeah.
Mike, I will see you inside in just a little bit. I think
All right.
the show's starting in about 20 minutes. You got a bunch of good guests between now and then, and I'll see you in just a little bit.
Perfect. We'll see you in a
Bye-bye.
moment.
Yep.
All right. Becky got a chance to speak with Troy Bader, the CEO of Dairy Queen, about the challenges of finding workers in this extremely tight labor market. And he says it's having a big impact on his business.
How about finding labor in the United States? It's tough for every business. How are you guys handling it?
It's the biggest challenge that our franchisees face. And I would say it impacts us on three different fronts. One is our franchisees. The other really are our vendors and our distributors.
Yeah.
And so starting with our franchisees, we still have about 20% of our franchise locations, the dining rooms are still closed. It's not closed because of any concern about pandemic right now or community restrictions. It's because they can't find enough labor.
Wow.
And that's a tough deal. So they're still operating through drive-through, getting better, and most are doing really well. But if your dining room is still closed today, that shows that there's a challenge really retaining people. And it's not about wages today. People are paying whatever they need to pay. There just aren't enough people to really come and work in the industry. For our vendors, it's about consistent production of the products that we need. And with distributors, drivers in particular are really getting hurt right now. And that's what's creating some supply chain disruptions.
Joining us here in Omaha, Whitney Tilson, founder and CEO of Empire Financial Research. Whitney, good to see you here today.
Good to see you.
You know, you obviously comb over the numbers with Berkshire Hathaway pretty closely. We've been going over the latest quarterly results and portfolio changes. What jumps out at you? We've been talking about the Chevron position.
There is major news that I haven't seen reported on yet, which is if you look at note 3 in the 10Q that was just released a couple hours ago, you'll see that Buffett made a massive new investment in Chevron, the oil giant.
Sure.
He bought $21 billion worth during the quarter, part of a $51 billion purchase of equity securities. Now we know 6 or 9 billion of that was Occidental, maybe 4 billion was Hewlett Packard, but this major new purchase of Chevron is huge. And for perspective, same quarter last year, total equity purchases were 2.5 billion.
Yeah.
This quarter was 51 billion, 21 just of Chevron, which is